something funny.
No, I said say something funny.
I really like pineapple.
Fuck.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to a very virgin-y, suicidal.
Like the very first time.
Welcome to a very special bonus episode of The Horror of Babylon, where Daniel and I are being ghetto because we're recording this
On the fly.
on the fly, and technically like an hour and 45-ish minutes before it's supposed to release. So there's no editing. There's just some music and making some things louder, and hopefully nobody says anything stupid. Which, honestly, we picked a really bad movie, because there's a lot of things to talk about in this movie that are...
I promise to be as good as I can, but I will be eating chips.
Okay, well, if you want us raw and unfiltered, this is about as raw and unfiltered as I'm going to allow it to ever get. So we're talking about the virgin suicides, and it's not going to be as structured as it will, but we will still kick it off with our history. Daniel, this is your first time watching it, right?
Yep.
But did you know anything about this movie at all, or had you seen anything on it, or the book?
Everything I knew about this movie, I learned from you about... You've brought it up before, but I can't remember the first time you did, before deciding that this is what we were going to do. I know that you said that at some point you'd like to cover it.
So, I came across this movie in middle school, and it was the era when I was probably like 12, 13, and like waking up at 5 in the morning to troll like the HBO Cinemax showtimes for real sex.
Oh, so like when I first saw Lolita.
Yeah. And I remember like coming on this movie, and I think I came on at like the end. I think the big scene at the end was like one of the first things I saw, but I was like, "Oh, this has virgin in it. Oh, it's got MJ in it. Ooh, she's hot. She's so hot." Yeah. This is me at like 12.
Yeah, no,
this.
You are age appropriate. That's fine. You're allowed to nostalgically think that, as long as you don't say it in a current context.
And then, like, being absolutely horrified.
Yeah.
Like, this movie scarred me big time. And I've talked about, like, the scariest movies that I saw. Night of the Living Dead I saw very young and also scared me a lot. And I also mention the Dark Crystal tongue-in-cheekily scaring me a lot as a kid, but this movie like scared me so bad, like I don't even like to talk about it. And I sought it out. Like, it scared me in a way that I wanted to see it, so I like sought it out so I could see the whole thing. And then in high school I bought it on DVD and watched it several times in high school, and I think I maybe watched it once in college. Probably the last, aside from the other night when I watched it for the podcast, the last time I saw this movie was probably like freshman or sophomore year of college. But yeah, it's a big movie for me. Really fucked me up as a kid. Oh yeah, we should probably do a trigger warning for suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-harm.
Self-harm.
Stalkerish behavior.
Like, I don't know how to put it, but like phony suburban people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just suburbanites. If suburbanites trigger you.
Yeah. It's very much a big theme of this movie is people who live in the suburbs together and kind of collectively act like a community and attend each other's parties and all this stuff, but then they're talking about each other behind their backs.
I hope you're ready for me to ask, hey, what was the deal with that a lot?
I think that was the kind of the one of the things that...
Like part of the points of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, because I felt stupid a couple of times where I'm like, huh.
So this movie is based on a novel, and the novel was written by Jeffrey... I'm sorry, Eugenides. The novel was published in, I want to say 1993. Yep. It was published in 1993, and then this film was released in 1999. It's directed by Sofia Coppola, daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, and of course it's his production company is American Zoetrope, so it's American Zoetrope Film. Had a budget of $6.1 million, had a box office of $10.4 million, so didn't make a ton of money. But it's kind of one of those movies. It's not a blockbuster type movie, so I'm sure that wasn't their intent. But in terms, I haven't read the book, so I don't really know like what the themes of the book are. I don't even know how true the movie is to the book. But aside from like the big obvious theme of like teenage girls and coming of age and self-harm and suicide,
repression.
One of the big themes is like the phoniness of like middle class white America. Like there's a lot of the structure of the movie is kind of weird. It's sort of like a mockumentary,
yeah,
but sort of not. Like there's portions that are interviews with like the neighbors,
with like other people, and that's part of the thing that like was confusing me. I was like, is somebody making like, is that going to be the reveal at the end, or someone making a documentary? But then it like nothing ever comes of it. I'm like, are the boys going and finding people years later?
The frame narrative is a little confused.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I think about while I'm watching it, but it is something that sticks out to me after I watch it.
Yeah, like after I was like when I was done, I was like, because I kept thinking, oh, it's going to circle back to something.
Because like the actual frame narrative is these 4 boys who are obsessed with these 5 sisters. And
they're just like me for real.
Yeah. It's them like going back on what happened with these 5 sisters, and one of the boys narrates it, and you get a lot from their perspective. But then there's also like these documentary-esque like interviews,
like office cutaways.
Yeah, both within the actual timeline and in the future.
Yeah. The future ones were what like took me aback the most. Like,
yeah, and I think it's only with Trip. There might be another one.
That was the one that stuck out the most.
Yeah. So it on paper, I think it sounds kind of bad. I think but it works in the movie. Like you're not like the movie is so emotional. Like you're not. At least I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff. But it does stand out to me after watching the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Just give me like your general reaction to this movie your first time watching it.
I laughed way more than I should have.
I imagine a lot, like there is comedy in this movie,
yeah.
But there's also, for me, there was a lot of I'm horrified, so
yeah,
I'm laughing.
Like that uncomfortable, like what just happened in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're a spoiler podcast.
Yes.
So this is your last warning, but like when the little girl jumps and lands on the fence.
Yeah.
I was like, that's when I messaged you. I was like, Ryan, what the hell is this movie?
I figured it was. It's a iron rail picket fence, and it has like the spikes on top. So if you haven't read this book or watched this movie, it opens with a suicide attempt by the youngest of 5 daughters. She's 13. She slashes her wrists in the bathtub, and they take her to a site, and they're kind of like a well-to-do, like middle-class family. Like the dad's a teacher, but he teaches at a private school, and they seem kind of well-to-do, and they're hyper Christian.
Yeah.
And so they take her to a psychiatrist, played by Danny DeVito, and he gives, like, probably
some of the worst psychiatric advice.
It's what you would, like, expect to hear. Like, she didn't actually want to die. This was attention. It was a cry for help.
You should probably let her see some boys her age.
So
Which, that's probably decent advice.
Because these daughters were, like, they're not allowed to date.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of social interaction outside of, like, school and church. So, yeah, these kids are, like, at the beginning of the movie, they do seem like they are somewhat repressed, but it gets worse. So, the parents say, okay, we'll have a party, and we'll invite the neighborhood boys, and it'll just be, like, a thing in our basement with punch and music, and it'll be chill.
Which is nice, you know.
And I think they did the right thing until the girl who had this issue, and she's been at this party, and she sits there the whole time and doesn't talk to anybody, and then she asks to go upstairs. And I know hindsight is 20/20, and I've seen this movie several times, but I'm screaming at the parents, don't let her be alone. And she throws herself from a window and kills herself.
Yeah.
And it's awful and horrific. Kathleen Turner, who plays the mom, does this awful scream. Ugh. Okay, so what else did you have? Like, what else stuck out to you about this movie?
I'm trying to think of the name of, like, the genre or how to describe this, but, like, because it has that opening that's so off the wall bonkers, and then it's almost just like, here's just some everyday life for an hour.
Like, kind of slice of life.
Yeah, it's like slice of life stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, is this the same movie?
I think the middle portion is, like, the girls dealing with it.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just so, like, a left turn from what I had just seen.
The middle portion, it like, okay, so these parents, we've talked about this a lot in Stephen King episodes, like, mm-hmm. So this mom and this dad, they have 5 daughters. Their youngest daughter just killed themselves, and they have to deal with that, and they also have to raise their other 4 daughters, and they don't do the best job. They don't do the best job of helping their daughters deal with their grief. Instead, it seems like everybody in the house, the daughters and the parents, are all repressing their grief. And the whole middle part of the movie is kind of slice of lifey. It's them going to school. It's them interacting with other people, and them just everybody repressing their feelings.
Did you smell my fingers?
Oh my god, that was so bad.
The only one who really got close to it.
Oh my god. Until it all blows up at the end, where the one of the boy at school who likes Kirsten Dunst, Josh Hartnett, Trip Fontaine, talks the dad and the mom into letting him and some of his friends take the other 4 girls to homecoming. And he goes to the dad, who's played by James Woods, and he says, I have only honorable intentions for your daughter. And then he takes her to prom, or homecoming, and then he takes her out on the football field after prom, ditches the rest of them so she doesn't go on home by curfew with the rest of her sisters, and he fucks her, he statutory rapes her on the football field, and what's even worse than that, or to add to it, he abandons her and leaves her there by herself overnight on the football field.
I'm kind of afraid to tell you my reaction to that scene.
Go ahead.
I felt like the title was misleading. I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, 4 out of 5 are virgins. It's still...
I feel bad that was my reaction, but that's what I was just like, hey, wait a minute, is what I said out loud.
I mean, it's still accurate because still 4 virgins killed themselves.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, like, the parents' reaction, they completely... obviously, they should be upset and they should punish their kid, but they completely overreact. They shut down. They pull the girls out of school. The dad quits his job. They don't leave the house. And the movie ends with the other 4 daughters also killing themselves.
That boy was a piece of shit.
He was. He absolutely was.
I was like, I have done some pretty shitty things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never fucked somebody and then just left them
Just
in a
left
field.
them. Like, it doesn't say what their age difference is, but it feels like there's at least like a 2-year age difference between them. Like, it says Lux, who's Kirsten's son, it says she's 14. He's got to be at least like 16, maybe 17. So there's that end of it, and then like the whole like taking her out and having sex with her and not getting her home by curfew. That's all terrible. But then like you're like starting this like emotional investment with this. You're older. You have the power in this relationship, and you're taking her V card and saying like leading her on like there's going to be a relationship. And then, like, she wakes up in the morning, and you're not even there. Like, it's horrific.
And he's even like, I don't even know why I did it.
Yeah, it has like this bullshit. Like, I loved her. It was real love. Like, most people don't even feel love like I felt with her. But after we had sex, I can't even explain it. I was just done.
The only solace I had was it seemed like he was either in some sort of group home or psych ward.
He was, when they interviewed him in the future, he
had some sort of restriction on his freedom because like a nurse or someone came up to him and said, hey, it's time for like group or something.
At best, it was like rehab.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in something.
But I mean, that's...
Obviously, his life didn't go well.
And I'm like, I don't know. I've done some pretty gross things, but when I see shit like that, and I realize, oh, that's something that people probably actually had to deal with. I'm like, I grade myself on a curve. I'm like a D- on the shit guy list.
Yeah, no, I do not have a perfect track record by far.
Yeah.
I have done some crappy things as well, but nothing. Oh God, I hope nothing I've ever done has been interpreted or received as being anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
he smoked the weed.
He smoked the weed. Yeah, and he's like walking through the hallways, like.
Oh, who was playing his dad? His dad was played by somebody.
Josh Hartnett's dad. Did you get the vibe that his dad was gay?
Okay, I was thinking either gay or like circa 1990s Italian guy. Well, because I mean, like he's wearing he has like the hair's greased back.
Yeah,
and he's like dressing super flamboyantly.
No, you're right. Okay, so let me go to all cast. I hate these fucking pop-ups. And then Control F Fontaine. Trip Fontaine. And his adult Trip Fontaine. Okay, so maybe Trip's dad. Trip's dad was played by Pete Snyder.
He looked so familiar to me.
But he doesn't even have a picture on IMDb. He's also in Bulletproof Monk, which I would believe you've watched.
Yeah, I have seen Bulletproof Monk.
And, he's been in 44 things. He's been in a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I recognize him from, but oh well.
Oh, yeah, he was I've seen Welcome to Mooseport. He was the Fox newscaster Bill. That's exactly where I'm recognizing him from. He was in one episode of Monk. The White Raven. Is that a spin-off of The Crow?
It's a movie about cultural appropriation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A dove tries to come in and pretend he's a crow.
He was also in Meatballs 3: Summer Job.
Okay.
Okay. What about the actual suicide scene at the end with the 4 girls?
That was pretty good. I think the build up to that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the title, and they talk about it. But I don't know. One of my worst fears is actually walking in on a suicide.
Yeah. You have a job where that is a little more likely to happen than most people.
I had to bite my tongue for a second.
HIPAA!
I was just gonna say, I'm more concerned of walking in on someone I care about.
I wouldn't want to walk in on anybody's, but yes, obviously that would be much worse.
I do think that would be kind of a headache.
Oh, now I have to do paperwork.
Well, mostly, God, at my job we have so many people who don't actually do their checks right and don't do their jobs. And I'll tell you some stuff when we're off the air, but I'm like, and it's made my job progressively harder and less enjoyable to where I've almost walked out every time I've gone into work over the past month.
Oh.
So, but yeah, like as soon as someone says they're feeling suicidal, we have to put them on suicide watch for at least 24 hours. And like, everyone's always like, oh my God. Because that's like an extra person that has to do just that one thing. So before, if you had like 2 hall sits, now you have 3.
I wonder if the patients at your hospital would ever think to like coordinate their suicide threats so that all of them have to be on watch at the same time.
No. But something did happen that I will tell you about later.
Okay.
Allegedly, I tell you about.
All right, what did you think about like the framing device of the 4 boys and like the narration? And
I thought it was weird, but in like the best possible way. Like this is a weird thing that I could picture some boys doing.
Yeah,
like getting hyper fixated on like these cute girls that live across from them.
I 100% believe that I would have been in that group.
Yeah, like man, these girls are so hot, and their sister killed herself. And
it's so sad.
And her diary's weird. Girls are like aliens.
Yeah. It does a good job of showing like how badly young men misunderstand women. Not that I'm much better, but just like how they're almost like when you're a 13-year-old boy, like girls, they almost feel like aliens.
It's like I don't know how much like stand-up comedy you watch.
A lot when I was a kid, not so much as an adult.
A lot of like stand-up comics, especially when their parents have bits of walking in on their kid doing a weird thing. And it's just like, man, my kids did this weird. And like, we all know that we've done something weird and embarrassing. And this isn't quite like getting caught fiddling with a vacuum cleaner or something like that. But this is like a weird thing that I could picture some kids doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's stalkery, but it's very believable.
Yeah, very. It is one of those things where, like, back in the day, like, it would have been like, oh, boys will be, they're looking at a girl through a telescope in the room.
They're watching her have sex on the roof.
And somebody would have been like, oh, boys will be boys, but these days we're like, no, that's not okay. So yeah, it is a bit of a period piece in a way.
These chips are like heroin.
I know. They're so good. They are so
I'm
good.
glad you don't have the hummus down here, because these would already have been gone.
I'm going to go grab it before you leave, just so we can...
just so we can try it.
Yeah, because I want to try it. So that's incentive to get through this, so we can try dill pickle chips and dill pickle hummus.
Sponsor us, Dill.
Dill! Okay, so... what did you think of, like, performance-wise?
Oh, no, everyone did a great job acting.
I agree. I think overall it's a great cast. Are there any standouts for you?
I think this one's probably going to be a weird pick, but I think the mom did the best job.
Kathleen Turner, yeah, she's pretty amazing.
She played Shrieking Mother really well. She also played Shocked Mother really well.
So I had, like, some different takes on this between watching this as a kid and watching it as an adult. And I also had some false memories. One thing, like, when I watched this as a kid, I remember distinctively thinking that the parents, specifically the mom, were like monsters, like the absolute worst that they could possibly be. And so as I'm watching this from the start, like the beginning of the movie, I'm watching them like, okay, like they're making mistakes, but like they should have handled this better, but they're not monsters. And then obviously, like, it gets worse.
Yeah, they do some stuff I don't have any kids of my own, but there's still stuff that I'd look at and I go, I'd probably advise against this.
Mm-hmm. But it's like watching it as an adult, like I see like their choices and I see their logic, and I wouldn't say I'm sympathetic to them pulling their kids out of school.
It's Malcolm in the Middle syndrome. I don't know how much of that show you've seen, but
a lot as a kid, not so much as an adult.
I've always described it as when you're a kid, you think that the mom's a bitch, and that the kids are just like being like, I mean, they're doing bad shit, but it's goofy. But I watched it as an adult, and I'm like, these kids are absolute monsters, and they deserve to all be in military school.
Yeah, just like Francis.
And it's just like and watching like what you're describing, I'm like, it's Malcolm in the Middle syndrome. Like, when you watch this as a young kid, you're gonna identify more with the kids. Yeah, and you still might a little bit. You know, because of nostalgia. We talk about nostalgia effect a lot on this show.
Yeah, the kids are absolutely victims.
But at the same time, you've matured a little bit, and you're like, well, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Like, if my daughter came in at, like, 5 a.m.
I would absolutely come down on her like a hammer, but I would not pull her out of school and lock her in the house. Yeah. But you can also, like, as an adult...
But you can see kind of the...
Like, I understand you're repressing your grief from your daughter's suicide, and you're afraid for your other daughters, and you're holding on too tight. You hold on loosely. Like, you hear the song.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's a rough movie.
If that was, like, her first really big fuck, I mean, I would still come down on her like a hammer.
Yeah.
But if it was, like, strike three... I keep saying military school because I'm thinking of Malcolm in the Middle. Mm-hmm. Boarding school. It would be some sort of private school or all-girl school.
Mm-hmm. Just because she's kind of the lead. What did you think of Kirsten Dunst?
I am always a fan of Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've loved her since Jumanji and Spider-Man and.
Yeah,
Kiki's Delivery Service, and this is...
She usually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, she's really great.
I thought a lot of the boys did a pretty good job, too.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of any of these boys, but, like, the Pineapple Boy I thought was fucking hilarious.
And he's not even in, like, the group of four. He's just,
he's just
an adjacent
around,
character, yeah. The, he's like, I love pineapple.
And he's hitting on the mom. I was like, this kid is me.
You're supposed to hit on the girls.
He knows what he likes. He likes tired mom eyes. And she had them in spades in this movie.
Yeah, she has 5 daughters.
You know, I always used to tell people that I wanted 9 children.
No.
But when I'm watching this movie, I'm like, could you imagine if 5 of them were girls?
No.
I had 5 sisters.
Oh my god. All right, so...
Why would I wish that on myself?
Kind of unofficial scary shit here. Is this movie scary?
I think parts of it are very horrifying.
Yeah.
I think that overall that the movie's intent isn't to completely horrify you.
No.
But it does some pretty horrific shit in a real-world sense. Any movie that involves suicide tends to get under my skin.
Yes. Especially with kids.
Yeah. So, I think that the shots of the suicides were all very good. Like, if your goal was to, like, shock your audience or get under their skin, I'm like, no, I mean, that's an effective, like, all of them. Like, the little girl at the beginning, even though that one made me laugh.
Something I just occurred to me when talking about the boys is another, like, really horrific part of that scene when she throws herself onto the fence is the boys coming up out of the basement following after the mom and the sisters, and then there's just this, like, minute where they're, like, frozen there, like, what do we do? And then they all just kind of, like, start filing out and leaving. And
what else are you gonna do?
I know, but it's just, like, it's just awful.
I'd probably cry.
Yeah.
But, I was talking about this on my way home from the movies today. Like, I think weird things make me cry. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand why it makes me cry after the fact, but then I'm, like, saying that, like, Deadpool 2 makes me cry. And I'm like, why does Deadpool 2 fucking make me cry? I can explain it, but it's like, you feel silly because it's freaking Deadpool 2. Mm. If I saw a little girl kill herself, I'd probably be bawling.
Yeah.
So.
That or in total shock for me.
Yeah.
Also, so to me, like, I don't think that it's supposed to be like a jump scare or anything, but like the most haunting scene, like, for me, is when it's after the youngest girl kills herself, and James Woods, who plays the dad, it goes upstairs, and the door to her room is open, and he walks into the room and it's dark and her window is open, and then he just turns and her ghost is just like standing there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see her, he doesn't react, she doesn't do anything, but she's just there, and it gives me goosebumps. There's also like she kind of appears to all the boys too, and there's one scene with the kids where the kid is in the car and he's driving by a tree and she's just up in the tree laying in the branch like fucking the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, just staring at him. Like, it's ugh.
The dead can age. Look how tall you are.
Oh my god. No rattlesnakes, please. No. Hey, Stephen King, write a sequel to The Virgin Suicides a la rattlesnakes.
Just do a cover of it.
Yeah. Ugh.
That's actually my dream, is to write a book popular enough to where I can ask a different author, hey, why don't you just rewrite it from your... how you would do it.
Yeah.
What's your remake of my book? Because no one does that with books. They'll remake movies or cover songs.
You're right. You're right. Okay, so just kind of looking at some other stuff to talk.
Accolades.
Some accolades.
MTV Movie Awards.
Sofia Coppola won Best New Filmmaker. Was this her first movie? Let me go to her page real quick. So let's get rid of actress. Let's get rid of writer. So that's a music video. That's a short music video. Short. Yes. So this was
her directorial debut.
Yeah,
her actual film.
Her first theatrical film, and you may know her from Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette.
I haven't seen any of those.
I thought you had said you had seen Lost in Translation. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. This Bill Murray in Japan movie. I must be thinking of somebody else. She does kind of artsy fartsy movies. In this movie,
have you met her father?
Yeah. And this movie is also a little more artsy fartsy than I typically like. But the story is so emotionally charged that I kind of overlook like some of the like director choices that are a little on that side of things. But it doesn't, yeah.
No, I mean, I get that. There's always going to be exceptions to the rules. Like there are going to be like genres that you typically don't like, but this one works for you. Mm-hmm. There's going to be characters that you don't like, but you liked them in this.
Yeah,
that just happens.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess let's go ahead and rank this puppy. Is there anything else about this movie that you wanted to discuss?
I'm sitting here, let me think for like 30 seconds.
You're fine. He's super fun.
I know we got a decent amount of it, but I would have liked to get like some more of the like the artifacts that they were collecting.
Yeah.
Like, the big one that we got was, like, the first little girl's diary that they found.
Yeah.
And then they had some other stuff. I can't remember what a lot of it was.
I really like the part where they talked about how they when they had the house cleared out when they were moving.
They raided stuff.
They raided it. It's like, oh my gosh.
I bet you that some of that stuff's in the book, like yeah. What their artifacts are. But so,
What would your king for the Virgin Suicides be?
The Suicides. I think that those all just stick out so much, like any of them. I think that, God, it's a good thing we're not monetized because we would lose it on this. Like, the hanging one's the one that got me. I was like, oh God, a Sayori moment.
That's the first one they discover, and the kid, Kirsten Dunst invites the boys into the house, and then she disappears to kill herself, and all the other sisters have already done it. And the boys run into the basement, and the one's like, "Man, girls drive me crazy. If I could just cop a feel," and he bumps into the girl hanging.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my god, it's so bad.
Hiya! Happy Easter!
But those really stick out in the mind. I don't think that. The only other thing that I could say would probably be a king would be some of the acting performances, but I think I'm going to go with the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is for me too, just because that's far and away the most powerful thing in the movie. But I also
like that it sandwiches them. Like you start with a suicide and you end with a bunch of them.
I had a false memory. I thought that the movie opened, and maybe this is just because of how I saw it. I started it at the end on TV, but I thought it opened with all five of them killing themselves, and then it rewinds time, and then it brings you back up to that at the end. But obviously, that's not how it goes. My kind of second place king is just James Woods walking in the dark room and the ghost of his daughter there. It's just it spooked the hell out of me.
The cinematography would be up there.
Yeah, cinematography is very good.
As much as we've made fun of Coppola before, that he taught his daughter well.
Yeah, she's very talented.
Yeah.
She was
also
also
how to frame a shot.
We normally mention the writers. She was one of the writers. Let me go ahead and shout out the other writers on this. Or no, it's just her. So the writing credits are the author of the novel, and then her. So she wrote and directed, and it was her first movie. So pretty impressive.
Pretty good.
And then Koontz, the suicides.
No. I it's not that I hate the parts in the middle, but there were some parts where I'm like, I was feeling a little confused. Mm-hmm. Like I was going, how is this going to tie back in together? And it was really just, no, you're just supposed to experience the lives of these tragic girls and how they eventually. I got that by the end. Yeah. But they were just like, and it wasn't like a bunch of times. There were just some parts where I was like a little bored and a little distracted because I was confused as to what was going on.
Maybe on a rewatch it would be better, but.
Yeah. I think because it sandwiches itself so well that all of that stuff's better in retrospect.
And also mentioning this is, I think it's like 97 minutes.
It's short.
Yeah, it's very short.
I miss movies being this short.
Me too. It's based on a novel, so maybe it doesn't do the novel justice, but it's hard to imagine adapting really any like regular size novel in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But still, just having watched the movie, it feels pretty effective.
Yeah. Maybe it's a short novel.
Yeah, we'll look that up real quick. While I think of my Koontz, I don't know,
Isn't it free on Audible right now, too?
Yeah, I've already downloaded it.
I should do that.
After we do rankings, we'll talk about the book a little bit more.
No.
Let me just bring it up on Goodreads.
That cover.
The cover is... Oh, cover's terrible.
That's almost as bad as some of the, Lolita covers.
Yeah. Oh, and I did want to mention, when I was watching this as a middle school kid, I was absolutely sexualizing Kirsten Dunst. But watching it as an adult, I thought it did a good job of showing that the other boys are attracted to these girls and that they are very beautiful, but not sexualizing them.
No, this movie did a really good job of that. And a lot of movies really fail at that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of movies that are... I'm hard pressed to think of an example where they're trying to critique sexualizing girls, mm-hmm. but then they sexualize the girls, and I'm like, it's kind of hard to critique that when you're literally shoving a camera up this girl's ass.
Probably helps that this one was written and directed by a woman.
Yeah. Well, the big example I'm thinking of was also written and directed by a woman.
Oh.
Which is a movie called Cuties on Netflix.
Oh, haven't seen it.
It's a movie about twerk dancing. And it's supposed to be like this deconstruction critique of sexualizing young girls. But there's entire 10, 20-minute sequences of them twerking and dancing, and the camera will zoom up on them and drag on them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not aroused by this, but you know that there's someone out there that's just downloading the scene.
Probably lots of someone's.
Yeah, I'm like, at some point, like, you're failing in your critique.
Yeah. So the book is 250 pages.
That is kind of short.
It's free with an Audible membership right now, and it's also free with a Kindle Unlimited subscription right now. Okay, so Mike Koontz. I guess just kind of the confused structure. Like, it kind of seemed like there was an interview, like a documentary being made. I wish it was just a little bit more clear about that, but like I said, while I'm watching it, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, but when you sit and you think about it for a minute,
yeah, it's like, what exactly was happening there?
Yeah,
okay.
I bet you that's something that's like in the book.
Yes,
I'd be willing to bet.
So before we rank it, is this a novel that we actually want to cover at some point?
Yeah, we can cover those.
Let me just look up how long the Virgin Suicides. Hello, come on. I don't know how to do stuff. It's 8.5 hours, so it's not a long book.
It's not like Goosebumps short, but it's not Stephen King long.
Okay, so maybe that we'll put that on our season 4 schedule.
Yeah, we'll jam it in somewhere.
And we'll do that, and then not do like a whole nother episode on the movie, but if we want, we can rewatch the movie and just talk about the movie a little bit on the book episode.
We can do like a compare and contrast.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll do that. Maybe we'll get Hef in on it too. I'd like to get his. I'd like to watch it with him. Just be like, what the fuck? All right, we got to rank this puppy.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel. I'm just typing it. I know you don't like it more than The Ring.
Okay, we're gonna need to go down a little bit, but not too far. This isn't like exactly.
Do you like it more or less than Lolita 1997?
Oh, is that the
That's the Jeremy Irons one.
Oh, less than that. That movie kind of cracks me up.
On IMDb, this was the #1 recommended movie if you like the Virgin Suicides. I'm not even kidding.
God, I keep forgetting like how many movies we watched because I'm like,
why is Dracula number 53?
Why is Ringu Kazabon so low? Is it just for the incest?
Because we've watched 125.
Yeah. Probably it's gonna be above Victor Frankenstein. I think it's gonna be above Cherry Falls, above Exorcist: The Beginning. I think I'm gonna put it right below Blade 2.
So it's your new number 63, below Blade 2, and above Happy Death Day to You.
I can see myself ranking that a little bit higher on a different day.
Yeah. It's going to be higher for me. I don't know. It's not going to be in my top 10, even though this is a pretty nostalgic movie for me. Mm-hmm. It's probably in my top 25. I don't know. Prey's real good. Oh, Prey's 26. Shit, I hate doing this.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Okay.
But a lot of the stuff, like, in our top, even in our top 60 range is really
good.
Really enjoyable.
Yeah. Alright, I'm going to put it as my new number 25, below Prometheus and above Cujo. Just got Kirsten Dunst wedged in between the Cujo and the aliens. That's great.
White Girl Summer.
White Girl Summer. Okay, so upcoming on the
now that you say that, I can 100% see a crossover audience of Lolita and the Virgin Suicides.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of similarities, but they also have a lot of differences.
I'm even thinking just in terms of cinematography.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, production-wise, there's a lot of similarities.
Like, they kind of look similar.
Yeah. They're both kind of, they're only 2 years apart. They're kind of that era. Oh, excuse me. Let me see if it still has the recommended on here. I think I'm on the whole staff thing. So let's just go back one. Virgin Suicides. Go to the bottom. Danny DeVito. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't, or at least these may change, but Girl Interrupted.
Girl Interrupted, I get.
Yeah, I agree that I haven't seen Marie Antoinette, but that's also Kirsten Dunst and Sofia Coppola.
Yeah.
Lost in Translation is also Sofia Coppola.
Virgin Suicide's the book, and then
Lolita, 1997. Okay, yeah. So upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, which is this podcast that we do. This Sunday, we are back at the Dark Tower, and Hef will be here, and we're reading The Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King. And then the next Sunday, we're doing our Goosebumps Attack of the Mutant Watch-Along episode. That's August 11th.
You're just trying to get through the rest of the year so we can be done with election season.
Oh my god, yes. Emma's like, Biden dropped out. I'm like, no, he didn't.
Yeah. I walked into work and one of my patients came up to me and said, "Hey, Trump just got shot." And I was like, okay.
Yeah. She's like, no, he really did. I'm like, what?
I honestly didn't think he was going to.
I honestly, we're not going to get into all this, but honestly, I've not been a supporter of him for a while. But honestly, it bumps him up a couple respect points in my book to just be like, you know what? I can't do this. I'm not up for it. Nobody's happy about me being president again, so let's give somebody else a try. Oh, Joe. And then our next 2 Thursday episodes are the first 2 episodes of the Universal Monster-a-thon, sponsored by Horsemen Comics and Gaming. On Thursday, August 8th, we're watching Dracula Spanish Edition because we've already reviewed Dracula 1931. And then on Thursday, August 15th, we're watching The Mummy in 1932. And if I had a mummy of dragons...
You know who aren't virgins?
Yeah, I would assume none of our patrons are virgins, but if one of you is, like, no shame, like, not judging. Because you know what happens when you assume. It makes an ass out of you and me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mummy of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben, the 4th Patron of Hope, and Mia the 5th, the Rainmaker.
Oh my god, she makes it rain.
And thank you to Sierra the 6th, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.forhorsemancomics.com, and if you make it into the store, say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas, who raised 3 children and none of them killed themselves.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty good record.
100% success rate. Good job, Ron, and also Christine. All right, thank you for suffering through the Virgin Suicides and recording with me.
I feel weird saying it was a good time.
Yeah. It's a rough movie. It's hard to watch, it's hard to talk about, but it's also, you know, it's worth it. You look like you're about to say something.
No.
Okay.
I was trying to think of something, but I couldn't. All
right. Well, thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials. Apologies for the ghetto-ness of this episode, and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.